Uri Misgav is a reporter and commentator for the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, and he joins us now from Jaffa. Thanks very much for taking the time. So the situation in Lebanon, let's take a look at that first. We've got a proposal of a ceasefire being bandied around. Is that likely to happen? Is Netanyahu keen on getting that happening before Biden leaves office?
Well, as we speak, I keep hearing helicopters and jets flying over Israel. Israel is bombing. Israel is being bombed. It's very hard to tell what will happen. I can tell you one thing, for many Israelis, this idea of a ceasefire as a gift to the new president-elect Donald Trump in the White House is horrendous. We feel more like pawns in the game that we don't really understand. Also with the strikes, and there's new threats by Netanyahu that if there won't be a ceasefire, he will take the Israeli army deeper into Lebanon. And at that point, many of us have to ask, what army is he talking about? Israel doesn't have enough soldiers and enough reserve army to back up all these plans, to my opinion, at least.
Because as our correspondent in Beirut says, the Lebanese battlefield is now increasingly also becoming the Syrian battlefield.
Yes, we've been hearing a lot about more and more strikes. We know from history of the area that sometimes before a ceasefire, each side tried to have more achievements, meaning more bombings and killing. This is not specifically the sign here because it's very hard to tell what Netanyahu is doing. I have to remind you, viewers, that Israel is in a turmoil, an internal, ongoing political crisis. Netanyahu government is far than popular. It's actually a minority government if you regard the latest polls or the polls in the last year. And so it's hard for us sometimes to know whether the actions are really in the right goal or just because of political reasons.
And is there a general feeling in Israel that it is losing the sympathy, the global sympathy, as these wars continue, as the death toll mounts, as the ceasefires keep getting stymied, and as indeed the battle expands?
Well, to be honest, it depends on what part of Israel you talk to, because this country is, as I said, divided internally. The liberal Democrats and even what we call the center in Israel, or even the more conservative, old-school right wing in Israel, understand what you've been talking about. There's another part of Israel, the settlers, the Orthodox Jews, and of course Netanyahu and his Likud party, which push more and more towards an endless war, because they know that the moment that there will be a ceasefire in the north and also in Gaza, that's the end of the regime. They'll have to be investigated for the crimes and to pay the toll also in the elections in Israel.
Well, that's an interesting one to pick up on, because would it necessarily be the end of the regime if he's got Trump in power in the White House, if he's, as he says, as you say, gives President Trump a gift of a ceasefire in Lebanon? What would he get in return from Trump?
Again, I've learned not to predict the moves of Netanyahu and never to say he's over, he's done. I've done it in the past. Miraculously, politically, he's managed to maneuver through everything. I have to remind you and your viewers another thing, another wave of police and Shin Bet security investigations storming over Netanyahu and his people and his bureau. And to add to that, in 2 weeks, he has to start going to court on a daily basis to testify in his own trial. And that makes him very nervous, very pressured, and very unpredictable.
Indeed. OK, Uri Misgav, many thanks indeed for taking the time to join us there with your insights into what's happening in Israel.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.